Good evening, everybody. Hello, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. Evening here in Cape Town, probably morning for some of you, or midday. So thank you for coming to join this session of February edition, Dive In with Dom. So as many of you know, nice to see familiar faces here. This is a forum dedicated to the practice of inquiry. And in each session, we explore different angles of the practice. And in 2026, we're doing a whole series on the different levels of the inner world. So inquiry is a way of exploring your inner world. And in these sessions, we're going to look at what really are different layers, depths of the inner world, and how to inquire into each level. And interesting to see how much you might be inquiring into each of the different levels or including them in your inquiry. So it's a public forum, and this is recorded. The videos will be posted to YouTube. And that's the whole session, including the Q&C at the end. The only bit that's not recorded at all is in the middle, we'll do an exercise, and you'll have an opportunity to go and explore for yourself if you want to. So if you do that exercise, you will do that in a breakout room with 2 other people, and that's not recorded. That's completely confidential. Okay. We have here a mix of people of all different inquiry experiences. Some are new to it, some have been doing it for many, many, many years. Maybe a quick show of hands. Raise your hand if you are new. If this is either your first time here or if you are new to inquiry. Okay, so Mina, I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Yeah, hi, welcome. And who else? Pop your hands up. Okay, Ethan, hi, welcome. And on the other page, anybody there? Good. Okay. So, and are you first time here or new to inquiry? Put up your hand if you're new to inquiry. Okay, so it looks like people have some sense of it. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you might be completely new to the practice, and that's fine too. So, as I mentioned, public forum. So watch what share whatever you want to share in the space with that in mind. And I think that will do for introductory comments. So my name is Dominic Lieber. I'm a Diamond Approach teacher. And this forum is really part of my interest in sharing this practice of inquiry because I find it such a wonderful practice and such a subtle and deep and complex and fascinating practice. So there really is just so much to discover in it. And that's what we're doing here because you, as a human being, have so much that is fascinating within you. So we're going to begin, as we usually do, with a short practice, and we'll do a short meditation. So to begin, as we begin, see if you can remember or find some kind of friendly interest, some kind of attitude of kind, interested, open, curiousness, warmth in your approach to yourself. So you're basically turning towards your own inner world, turning towards your consciousness, and you're going to explore it. We're going to get closer to ourselves. And in that getting closer to ourselves, we always like to begin that with an open, friendly attitude. So notice where you are right now, how you're doing at this particular moment of your day. Whatever feelings are around, whatever thoughts are on your mind, whether you're curious and open about what's going to happen here or preoccupied with something that just happened in your life, wherever you are, just notice that. Then let your eyes close. And then for this first practice, see if you can let whatever that is recede a little into the background and begin to sense your body. So start sensing your feet on the ground and your butt in the chair. So really taking a moment to connect with those inner sensations, sensations of your feet and your seat. Sense your back and your spine rising from your pelvis. Relax the back of your neck a little and sense your head floating above your spine. If there's any tension that you can let go of in your eyes, your face, your jaw, then do that. Let that go. Just relax them that little more. And then sense down into your upper body and begin to sense the movement of your torso with your breath. Just feeling the rise and fall of your ribs, your belly, as you breathe. Sensing your breath, sensing your body. It's kind of an intimate thing to do, to get close to these sensations. And then invite your focus down to the area below your belly button, to your lower belly. And you can place one hand on your lower belly and the other hand over it. And sense the sensations of that lower belly. Whatever it is you can feel there. So there's no right or wrong, nothing you should or shouldn't sense. Maybe the warmth or pressure of your hand, the movement of your breathing. Just land with whatever you can get in touch with. Might be tingling. There may be not much. Maybe there's some kind of fullness. Could be the fullness of your meal, or maybe some other kind of fullness. Fullness of presence. Sense of something substantial in your consciousness there. And whatever you find there, let that be a focus. Place your attention there and let that be the most important thing for the next few minutes. So you let go of everything else and just attend to these sensations of your lower belly. If you find your primary focus wandering off and you start thinking about things or getting involved with other things in your experience, as soon as you notice that, just let them go and come back to sensing your belly. With this practice, you are very deliberately placing your attention on a subtle dimension of your inner world. You are sensing your sensations, and sensing the sensations of your belly. And you might notice that there are all sorts of thoughts or ideas connected with your life that may show up. What's going on? All connected with your inner process. And taking this time to place your attention here, to sense your belly, to sense the sensations of your belly, the consciousness of your belly, is intentionally bringing the more inner part of your world into your experience. Letting go of all the rest and sensing just the immediacy of your belly. So as we know with meditation, sometimes that's easy, and sometimes it's very difficult to drag our attention away from all the other content. And the good news is you don't have to force anything. You just continue practicing, coming back to your belly over and over, remembering this layer of your experience. And then take one more breath, sensing your belly. And with the exhale, let go of the focus. Now you can let your awareness expand into your inner world, coming in touch with whatever it does. Expanding your awareness into a whole field of awareness. Sensing the rest of your body. Notice what's happening there. Your arms, your legs, and the rest of your torso and your head. Perhaps noticing how you're feeling, what kind of emotions or feeling tones are around. And just feeling that a little more. Noticing your mind. How is your mind right now? What's on your mind? If it's busy and thinking, preoccupied with something, include that. If it feels clear or open or dull, you can notice that. And then Tune into your listening, adding listening, sounds of your environment. And when you're ready to, let your eyes gently open and begin looking. Taking in your visual sense of your environment, including that in your field of consciousness. Your perception of the world around you. And then just notice, how are you? How are you doing? Here you are, sitting here at this time, having made this time to practice. And yeah, how are you? Where are you? What's up for you? What's occupying you? What are you curious about within your experience? So you can see there are many layers. Human being has many layers. From just that simple, so many ways to break it up, that simple breakdown into sensations, feelings, or heart and meanings, mind. And it's one way of looking at our experience, seeing the layers that are there. And you might have noticed that some of what was occupying you, or some of what might be present for you, might have something to do with your life, right? With things going on out there, things going on in real life. So if your inner world is like an ocean, flowing around with all your consciousness and the meanings and feelings and sensations that are arising for you, then the shores that it flows around are the shores of your life, right? Of real life. There is something there that is not just in your inner world, right? The world, the people, the relationships you have, the activities you pursue, your work, your physical health, your community, your politics, your finances, all of these things, right? Your families. These are all elements of life, right? Elements that have some kind of like actual reality. And that actual reality is a big impact on our consciousness, right? A big impact on what is arising within us, on the feelings, on thoughts and emotions and reactions and impulses and urges and sensations that come up for us. You might have noticed you feel different at work than you do at home. You might feel, maybe you don't. Some people don't. You might feel differently on the beach than you do. Can't think of what's the opposite of the beach. Than you do in a stressful situation with a client. Or in a traffic jam. So the point is simply that real life is actually a thing, right? Real life has all kinds of things going on it that for us as human beings generally is profoundly meaningful. right? We live our lives. We want to live our lives. With this practice, the diamond approach more generally, but inquiry in particular, is not a spiritual practice that is about leaving your life, forgetting about your life. I mean, there are spiritual approaches that are like that. There are spiritual approaches that say, real life is not real. That's all just an illusion. And there's something inward that, like, that's the only thing, or the consciousness is the only thing. But I think here we see, if we just look at our immediate experience, we don't take a position on it, and we just investigate and explore our experience of life and of being in life, you tend to find that, it's a thing, and it affects you, and it brings all kinds of things out in you. Makes you feel all kinds of things and think all kinds of things. We value so many things in it, many things in life that we care about and we love, right? And that we want. Things that we hate and can't stand and wish were different, and things we struggle with and battle with and suffer with, right? Life includes all of it. And of course, your life is so particular, so personal. No one else is living your life. No one else is engaging in the opportunities of life in exactly the way that you are. I notice that people vary a lot in terms of how much they bring their life into their inquiry. Like when they're exploring their inner world, some people, it's almost as if they dive into their inner world and they go to the depths, or they go into that sort of level of things, and it's almost as if they never talk about their life. They never talk about their partner or their sex life or their financial situation or what's going on at work and how it's affecting them. Right? Some people can be like that. And I always wonder about that. I'm always a little curious, like, what's going on there? Right? How come we're not hearing more about how your life is affecting you and what's it bringing up? Some people, of course, go to the other extreme, and they only talk about their life. They talk about what's going on and the situations and what they're trying to do or change, or, everything that they're doing. And unless prompted, they don't actually leave the shores, as it were, of real life and enter the waters of their inner world. To go from talking about what is happening in life, what are the circumstances of life, and to move towards, how am I feeling about this? What is this bringing up in me? What is the consciousness or the being that's here that is actually meeting that situation of life? And this really is part of the movement of inquiry. So we're starting at the surface, right? In this series, we're going to start at the surface and then step by step go deeper through it. It doesn't mean that for you in any given inquiry, you always start at your life, right? No, you start where you are. You might be working with something deep within yourself, and that's where you're working at, and that's where your inquiry is. But for the purpose of exploring these different levels, we're going to start at the surface, at this question of real life. So real life has all these circumstances. And then, just like an island or like the shores, you have this coastal zone of the inner world, the place where your consciousness directly interacts with life, right? Where the sea crashes onto the shores and interacts and is affected by what's going on there. So this is one layer of your inner world, right? And here you are moving from looking at just the circumstances themselves, the things that are going on for you, and beginning to look at the inner experience of them. right? Inquiry is all about just finding out what's really here, what's really going on, what's here in my consciousness, what's really true for me. So the circumstance might be a part of that truth. Very important to see. Very important to see what is going on, what is affecting you. And as you start getting a sense of that truth, that reality, the next truth to see is, well, what's it bringing up in me? Right? This coastal zone. How am I being affected by what is happening in my life? What is it touching within me? What do I think about it? Right? So we have all kinds of beliefs and ideas and judgments about things happening in life, right? About the circumstances, about how we're doing in it. Right? So these are all areas that you can begin to inquire into, begin exploring. What do I believe about this? You know, what do I feel about it? What's the feeling that's coming up? Am I having some kind of reaction? If you're having a reaction, what is the reaction? What can you find out about that reaction? How is it to make space for the truth of that reaction? Oh, I'm really disappointed, right? I didn't get the job, or I couldn't get what I wanted, and there's this feeling of disappointment here. Alrighty, let me just really feel that. Let me be open and friendly and curious to get closer to whatever my life is bringing up in me. Right? Whatever the feelings are. Oh, I feel the sense of delight, right? Well, what's the delight like? How is it to feel that delight? To let yourself acknowledge the truth of your delight. So all kinds of things happen in our lives that affect us in so many different ways. And we can notice that part of living life more fully is really bringing all of these things more into consciousness. I mean, in that sense, inquiry is really a movement of living your life more fully, because you're really making space for the truth of both what is actually going on in your life and for what it means to you, how you feel about it, what impulses come up in you in response to it, what it makes you want to do, right? I read the news and it makes me want to scream. Okay, how is it to feel that, to acknowledge that truth and to let it happen in the space of your inquiry, to feel the energy that comes with that truth? All of this is then part of living our life more fully, which means being touched more by life, seeing how we really are touched by life, beginning to acknowledge what we really do want from life, right? It's such a rich territory, such an amazingly rich territory to explore. To feel what comes up in us as we are in that situation. So there are, of course, a couple of caveats, things that can that we need to be aware of, let's say. So the first thing is that inquiry, as we're beginning it here or approaching it here, is about discovering that truth of how you're experiencing things, right? Finding out what's going on for you and yeah, what's true for you. Inquiry is not necessarily the best thing to do with solving specific problems in real world, right? So if your car is broken down, you need to get your car fixed, right? And inquiry is not the best thing to figure out how to fix your car, right? That's a real world task that you need to engage with at some point, and you'll probably, find out how to get a mechanic and all the rest of it is needed, whatever is needed to fix your car. But what inquiry is good for, is very powerful for, is to see, well, what is this bringing up in me? My car needs to be fixed. I haven't done it for the last month. It's becoming a real pain, and somehow I'm not doing it. Well, I wonder what's going on there. How come? And it might be that as you begin to explore that, you realize, oh, I feel really anxious about it. And I don't like that feeling of anxiety. So because of that feeling of anxiety, I'm not taking any action about the car. So then that becomes something to be curious about. Okay, so now I've seen that there's anxiety involved. I wonder, what am I anxious about? What's going on there? And you might feel into that. And as you explore your anxiety, you realize, oh, I really don't know what to do. And whenever I don't know what to do, I get anxious, right? So you're starting to follow the meaning in your experience. And this begins to lead you from the shores, from dealing with, wrestling with life on the shores. It begins to lead you step by step more into your inner world to see what is making you experience it the way you are. So the natural movement of the inquiry will tend to take you deeper. It will take you from the life circumstance and then into what that's meaning and feeling to you and bringing about in you, and then into, well, what's making that happen? Right? How come I'm responding in the way that I am? Or how come I believe what I do about this? You know, I'll never find love. That's what I believe. Every time I try and get involved in dating, that's the belief I run into. Well, that's very interesting. I have to look into that. I wonder where that belief comes from. So it becomes something to be curious about and to explore that, as I say, will take you deeper into your inner world. So inquiry is not the best thing for figuring out how to fix your car, right? Number two, there is something that we need to look out for in terms of how the inner and the outer world get mixed up. So how our life on the shore and our inner life need to be clear. And we actually did 2 sessions on these not so long ago. And I'm going to tell you exactly when they were. So the first one we did was in January 2024, right? And there, if you want to look at that on YouTube, you can go and see the full session on this one issue, which was the question of when we limit our inner world because of what's going on in real life, right? So you limit what you can feel or think or experience in your inner world because you think based on what's going on in real life that you can't do that. So an example would be, I feel like I want to yell at my partner or yell at my boss, but I can't do that, obviously. I have to be nice and polite. So therefore, I can't let myself feel this anger, right? That's an example, right? And what you have to remember there, I'm giving this very abbreviated version, is that experiencing something in your inner world and actually doing it in real life are 2 totally different things. So you can let yourself experience whatever can come up, can actually come up, right? You can want something that you could never afford. Who cares if you can't afford it? You can still want it, right? You may not be able to have it, but there's nothing to stop you wanting it and exploring what you think it means to you or what you feel it would bring you. So in that sense, your inner world is much more free than your outer world. So limiting your inner world is the one issue. And the second issue is the opposite. And that we covered in September 2024. And that's the problem that we call acting out. So there's a feeling that you're having in your inner world, some emotion or reaction or impulse or urge that really, when you consider the circumstances of your life, you shouldn't just let out, right? You shouldn't actually go to your boss and yell at them. It's really not the best thing to do. Or you shouldn't go out and buy that thing that you really can't afford. Or you shouldn't really spend all day, every day, holed up, watching series and not doing anything to take care of your life, right? So these are things that when you consider the objective situation of your life, there really are things you need to take account of. So acting out is when you ignore those because you're feeling it. It's like, well, I feel that, or well, I believe I should be able to do whatever I want to do, so I'm just going to go and do it. Or I don't feel like, anyway, whatever it is you don't feel like. When, in reality, actually, chances are it is an appropriate thing to do. So acting out is letting things from the inner world escape onto the shores in a way that can be, it'll create a mess for you. It will create difficulties for your life. So these are two things as we begin working with our life and working with our inner response to our life and our inner experience of our life that are important to keep in mind. So you can see more about those in the recordings if you want to. So that hopefully just gives you some context. Really, all I'm wanting to do here is shine a light and an invitation into all the different corners of your life. We often will tend to zoom in on the things that are problems. Excuse me, right? We find the thing that we're having a difficulty with, and that's the thing we inquire into. And, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But there might also be things that are wonderful, right? Things that happen in your life that you feel great about. And that also is something to explore, right? How does it make you feel? What does it bring up in you? What arises in your consciousness in response to that? And how come? Right? Inquiry is not just about fixing problems. It really is about exploring your truth. And your truth, there is truth to be found in every corner of your life, is really what I'm suggesting here. So I want to invite you to do an exercise. So you're going to find yourself, if you stay on to do the exercise, in a room with two other people. So there'll be three of you, right? And the exercise is going to go like this. So each person will have 5 minutes. The other two people are completely silent witnesses. You just sit there and be present. Listen to the other person, see how it impacts you, but you don't say anything. You don't outwardly express anything, right? So life on the shores here means just sitting there and being present. And you can let whatever goes on inside you go on inside you. You can be splashed and washed however you are, but you don't say anything, right? When you're the person inquiring, you have 5 minutes to do your exploration. And what I would suggest you do is to pick some area of your life. Pick an area of your life and talk about it. Talk about what's going on there, right? Include any aspect of the story or the events that feel relevant, right? And as you talk about it and bring it more into focus in your consciousness, then turn your attention inwards and to notice, what does this bring up in you, right? How are you feeling as you talk about it, as you explore it? What are the feelings that are coming up for you? If you sense your body, right? What are you sensing? What starts coming up in your felt sense? Like butterflies in your tummy, or do you get tight in your head, or do you feel excited and energetic in your heart? Whatever it is that happens, right? You make space for that. And what ideas do you have about this life situation, right? What are your beliefs about it, or your thoughts or ideas? So you really want to just explore what's true for you, right? What comes up for you, what shows up in your consciousness as you zoom in onto whatever particular life situation it might be. It could be a person, a relationship, something you're doing, a place, your cat, your taxes. It really doesn't matter. You can pick anything, right? And just explore both the life situation and then your inner experience of it and what comes alive in you as you contemplate it. Okay, 5 minutes, right? So 5 minutes for that, for each person, that'll take 15 minutes. And then I want you to have a further 5 minute discussion. So just take 5 minutes together to talk about what happened. How was it for you to explore something from your life in this way and begin to notice the inner elements that come along with it? Okay, so you just have a little 5 minute discussion to share what you noticed about that. And then we'll come back here. So the exercise in total will take 20 minutes, and we'll add an extra 2 or 3 minutes for, getting into your breakout room and saying hello and introducing yourself. And we will be back here at 30, let's say it's about 38. We'll start again at 38, 39, somewhere up there. Okay, enjoy. Have fun with the exercise. And if you're not do the exercise, drop off now, please, because Susan will create the breakout rooms, and it's easier for her if people don't just out of them once they've been set up. Come back in 25 minutes. Alrighty, so welcome back, everyone. And we're going to have some time for questions and sharing, discussion. So I'm curious, how was it for you to look into your life from this perspective? And let's start with Che. Che, go ahead.
Hi, Dominic. I really look forward to today's topic when I read it. So it really reminded me of the teaching when Hamid said, being in the world but not of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because where we are in our phase, he really talks about actualizing the teaching. So what I would like to bring forth is that it's the category of worrying. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what has come into my life just recently, I was diagnosed with cancer about 2 months ago. It went
Okay.
extremely smoothly. I mean,
Yeah.
I felt somehow I was put on this conveyor belt of basic trust that I had never, it was not a conscious thing. I just found myself on this stream and it really was so supportive. Now, what I want to bring up is that I'm at this place where it may reoccur. I mean, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what cancer is. And so I knew that. But there's a part where in my thoughts or my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, the worrying part. But I know that in some ways, there's nothing that I can really do. I mean, until I get tested again and everything. So I know that there's physically nothing, but
Yeah.
that part where it starts to worry.
Yeah.
And there was one time I checked in with myself to say, God, is like the teachers say to us, like, what is here? Is that here right now?
Yeah.
And I realized it really was not here. I mean, I checked aside from the thought that scared me, but I was not, worry was not here. And it was
Okay.
almost
Yeah.
like I could
Very
go
good.
about my day to day. But I got some news the other day that kind of put me in that zone again.
Mm-hmm.
And I I guess when I checked in, I wasn't worried, but I felt like I should be worried. So there was that weird little in,
Okay.
in the part that I felt like I should be worried, it feels like a default of mine. Sometimes I can just dwell on something, but
Right.
yet I
Gotcha.
questioned, sometimes I question, oh, am I just trying to go somewhere else? Maybe I really should stay with it. So this is,
Okay.
I'm in this muddy area.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Yeah. I really appreciate how you're approaching it. So, couple of options, couple of possibilities here. I'm not totally sure which yet. But what happens if you kind of hold, like, okay, you in your main sense of self, you're not worried, you're feeling kind of relaxed. But there's some part of you, and I think you gestured a little bit like this, right? So there's some part of you that is worried. So I wonder how would it be to say, okay, so, oh, there's that worry. There's some part of me that's worrying. Let me make a little space for that. Let me see what is this part of me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just you saying it in that way,
Yeah.
um, it just feels like it's got a seat at the table. I think maybe I was
Oh,
maybe putting it in the
right.
corners.
Right. So when you give it a seat at the table, if you say, oh, there's this worried part, like, come in, let me see, what can you tell about it?
It I feel like I'm seeing it, and it
Mhm.
just like another guest at the table. It's you know what I
Mhm.
mean.
Uh-huh.
Unconsciously, I think it was kind of put over. Yeah, so
Right. Right.
it feels very, I don't know, just the same as everyone else sitting at the table. Yeah.
I see. And how do you feel about it or towards it right now?
Well, right now, I it feels very relaxing. It feels very comfortable. It's
Uh-huh.
almost like a second helping of some.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. And is there any trace of that worry around still? Like as you give this part some space in your consciousness at the table, do you is there some sense of the worry around, or is it actually just not around at all?
It's really not, it's very slight, if at all. It's
Uh-huh.
very, yeah,
Oh,
that's,
good. And then let's just check one other thing. So, what worries you about not worrying?
I, um, yeah, I know. It's what worries me about not worrying.
You said there's some part of you thinks you should be worrying.
There's,
Like, how come?
there's some, it feels almost like it's expected.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something within, you know, people that are, it's almost like I've heard it so much, like, oh, you've got cancer, you've got to worry. It's just
Right.
kind of
Uh-huh.
low grade. And
Right.
I think that about cancer too before I had it. Like, oh my
Right.
God.
Yes.
It's something that was just kind of in the waters.
Uh-huh. And so when you see it like that, what happens?
It almost feels like if I worry, then I am giving it some respect. I
Uh-huh.
I'm
Mm.
cancer, it's due, like
Right.
it's yeah, that's an interesting, like
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. How is it to see that?
Well, when I saw that, there was this image of like when you flick something off of a table, there's a piece of lint or something, and it just felt like it flicked off. Like I didn't realize that that was my assumption or my thought form. Like, oh,
Right.
this is giving
Yeah.
it not just for my cancer, but
Right.
for cancer in
Uh-huh.
general.
Do you think it's true? Is that true?
I think you can give it respect without feeling like I need to give it respect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Very
it feels so, because I think I was kind of jammed up. I didn't quite know how to look at this, but
good. Yeah.
the question that you asked is just, guys, like loosening my belt. It just feels,
Oh, yeah. Feel that. Okay. So feel that. Just let that happen.
yeah,
Take a
yeah.
breath into that.
Mm,
Yeah. Beautiful.
thank you.
Beautiful. So, kind of really bringing out both the subtle ways that we might be, even if it's not a strong reaction, some part of us is having a reaction. Like we really don't need to push it away. You can really just bring it in, right? And just see it for what it is. 90% of the time is all that's needed,
Hmm.
right? And similarly, as you say, we kind of have assumptions that we don't even know we have about things. And yet, as you can feel, they have quite an impact. And
Yeah.
simply bringing it into the light and seeing it for, oh, that was just an assumption, right? And actually, it's not really true.
Yeah. I would not have known assumptions until you kind of
Mm,
unfolded it. No?
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Beautiful. Thanks for the example. That, I'm glad you can be ease with it and you're finding a good way of being with it. I'm sorry you're dealing with it, nevertheless. So, yeah, wonderful chat. Thank you. Tim, go ahead.
Uh,
There you are.
I was similar to Che, kind of excited when I saw the topic for tonight's discussion because
Mm,
there's something that's been going through my mind for a while in terms of what I call everyday inquiry.
mm,
Uh, and it's based on something I read in a book by Hamid Ali, at least one of his books. He wrote something like, after you've done inquiry for a while, then everyday life kind of turns into an ongoing inquiry. At
mm,
least that's the way I remember the quote.
mhm.
And that really appeals to me, and I don't quite understand what he means. And that's
Uh-huh.
kind of what my question is. What does that look like?
Yes.
I hope it's not, oh, then something happens in life, you have to run home and get on your cushion and do your inquiry. That is not so appealing to me. But I also don't understand what
Mhm.
inquiry is like if I'm standing in the supermarket checkout line and
Right.
I want to do an inquiry. So, any thoughts
There's
you have on that?
Yeah, two things kind of strike me. I mean, one is that inquiry does become, in a certain sense, just kind of baked into how you are with things. So, you're standing in the supermarket checkout line and you have a big reaction about something, you know, before you might just have the reaction and rant or whatever. And now you'll be like, oh, okay, curious. I'm going to feel this reaction and explore it. Like, I'm kind of curious what's making me react like this, right? So we're, instead of just being swept along in life and in our automatic patterns and responses to life, we begin to start wising up to them. We're like, oh, okay, hang on, that's a pattern. Or you're feeling where it's coming from in you. So we're starting now in this series, at any rate, just at the surface. But the point is that when you're meeting life, you could be meeting life from any of the many layers we're going to explore through the rest of the year. So you may find as you're standing in the supermarket checkout line that actually you're meeting it just with some assumption you have about a checkout line. Or you might find that you're meeting it from a feeling of being a little kid who's standing in line at school and can't get what they want. And that's what's causing the reaction. Or you may find that you're meeting it from some sense of deficiency, right? That you do, right? Or you may find that you're meeting it from some sense of presence, right? That there might actually be some quality of being that's arising as you're just standing in that checkout line. So life becomes like, is basically, it's like a prism that is always revealing sort of where in your inner world you're coming from. And you're either coming from presence and that's coming out into life and you're just living the life of being, or it's refracting off one of the intermediate layers. And that gives you an opportunity to inquire because there's something that's obscuring or some quality of presence that you're not able to freely and fully embody yet, right? So in that sense, life becomes a whole living inquiry because however you are with something, as you become more present with that and more conscious in that, it'll either be revealing being or it'll be revealing all the things that are interrupting being or stopping being. And then that becomes the inquiry.
And is there a way I can tell the difference?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. How do you tell the difference? How would you tell the difference? This is such a good question. How would you tell the difference?
I'm asking you.
Yeah. Well, what you got to do
No,
is
I mean, one
you
thing I sense
sense
is I could,
yourself.
sorry.
You sense yourself. You
Right.
sense
Okay.
yourself, right? Because when you are sensing and deeply in touch with your experience, this is why
Hmm.
we do sensing arms and legs while we're going about our shopping, right? So
Hmm.
while we're sensing yourself as you're standing in that checkout list. If you are coming from presence, you'll be sensing presence, right? You'll
Okay.
feel, oh,
I see.
there's this presence of strength, or this presence of joy, or this presence of spaciousness, whatever it is. If you're coming from a little kid, you'll be sensing a little kid. You'll be like,
I
oh my
can.
God, I feel like I'm
I
about
understand.
4. Do you know what I mean? Like
I
it's there
understand.
in the immediacy of the experience.
Okay.
And that
So what
really is
I'm
where the sensing becomes so vital, so that you can actually
okay.
tell, where am I coming from?
Okay. What I'm hearing is an invitation to sense into what's going on. Right.
Always,
Yeah.
24/7.
Okay. Great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's a great question. Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much. Yeah, Mohammed,
Hello.
hello.
So I'm curious about something I've started to notice recently, which is like my personality cannot inquire. Like when I want to inquire, I approach it as a task that I need to feel curious and I need to ask some questions and to get those answers as soon as possible.
Okay, very good. And how's that going for you?
I feel like I can't inquire and I feel a sense of deficiency and emptiness.
What
And
do you mean you can't inquire? Let's just hang on a second. What do you mean you can't inquire?
like I can't uh, move through inquiry. I can't ask questions or get answers or things does not feel to move.
Okay. So are you expecting that you should think of a question and then ask the question and then like discover the answer kind of thing? Is that how you're thinking of it?
Most of the time, yes.
Okay.
Sometimes I tend to sense my experience,
Okay.
but
So you can do that. You
the,
sense it.
yeah, but the main tool is to articulate it into questions.
Yes. Okay.
And
So,
sometimes I feel stuck.
okay. So when you're sensing your experience, right, can you just describe it a little? What if you just sense
Yeah.
your experience now? Just take a moment, sense yourself, and, just describe it a little. Like what's here?
I feel that whatever I will say, it is coming from a reactivity.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yes, sure.
Okay. So it's coming from a reactivity. How do you know that?
It feels to be a mental reactivity. Like I'm not reporting what's happening. It is coming
Okay.
from my mind.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't
And
you just
yeah,
report what's happening?
it feels the same, always the same thing. Like it is coming from my mind all the time,
Okay.
and just I stop to inquire.
Okay. What do you sense in your head? How does your head feel?
It feels like nothing.
Feels like nothing. Okay. Sense
Yeah,
the nothing.
like
Just
it is.
feel the nothing. What
Yeah,
kind of nothing? Is it like
like
a
there is a
dark
lack of
nothing?
substantiality.
A lack of substantiality.
Yes.
Beautiful. So you can tell something about it. Okay, just feel the lack of substantiality. Your head feels insubstantial. Right? What's it like to have an insubstantial head?
Yeah, it feels like to be deprived from meaning.
Okay, like there's no meaning. Okay, so your head feels kind of insubstantial and like there's no meaning. Okay, yeah, beautiful. There's a breath. So just have a
Yeah.
breath with that. There you are. Empty head. So does it feel empty Or does it feel kind of airy and spacious? Or does it feel dark? Or what's it like when you say insubstantial?
It feels empty, which is like absence of something.
Okay, yeah. Can you sense the absence itself? Just sense the absence.
Yeah, it feels to be like a linear things, something that does not has any depth.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't have any depth.
Exactly.
Okay, good. So the absence of depth. Okay. So Mohammed, this is how we inquire, right? We just kind of hang out with it and just let it be exactly as it is, right? So if it feels empty, let it be empty and just describe the emptiness. And I want to say it's tricky, right? So you're pointing to part of why we're doing this series and why I'm writing this book in a certain sense, because you're approaching a particular zone of the inner world that has to do with emptiness, right? Emptiness and absence. That's arising for you. It's here. It's right here in your experience. And as you see, it's actually quite tricky to navigate. Like, how do you inquire into this? Right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we're going to come back. I think I don't know when we're doing it, but later in the year, there's going to be a session where we're going to talk all about this, right? How to navigate and explore the emptiness. The core is always the same, to simply stay with your experience and just see what you can say about it, right? Just hang out with it and see what you can say about it. But yes, it has its knacks for sure.
Yeah, and I noticed that emptiness usually comes with rejection. Like I'm not comfortable with emptiness.
Okay,
Yeah,
good. Very good. So now you're discovering something about your reaction to the emptiness. So you want to look into that. See, how come you're rejecting the emptiness? What makes you not comfortable with it? Right? So that's something that you see with each thing that you could discover, you can then take a little more time with that. Oh, okay, I see I'm rejecting it. Okay, yeah. How come I'm rejecting it? What's making me do that? Like, what am I assuming about it? And so on.
yeah, that's interesting. Thank you, Tom.
Okay, good. You're welcome. Yeah, great. Great. You're onto something there. And we'll have a quick one with Noel.
And I'm conscious of the time,
Time.
Dom.
Yes.
And actually, your response to Tim really has covered a lot of what I was going to check in about. But I left my hand up because I just wanted to name it to see if there was another nuance.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be that sort of question for me around when I'm doing inquiry and I'm in that space, there's a certain holding and there'll be depths reached and realizations. And then I'll be sort of wondering, how come this doesn't happen when I'm walking down the street or in the supermarket or whatever? And occasionally it will say, if I'm going for a hike on the mountains and I'll slow down, I'll say, hold on a minute now, what's my intention for the day? And I'll actively look to check in and sense in. But there was a dynamic happened in that 5 minute inquiry, and it often happens here. It amazes me each time. And in such a short period of time, there can be such a depth reached. And what happened was there's a lot going on in my life at the moment, all mixed up in with each other. Is that where I began and what I started talking about? I wasn't sure, but I started talking just about one part, which was my older brother died a year and a half or nearly 2 years ago, and his birthday's coming up. And just in the naming of it, the sadness came up, which hasn't been coming up for an entire lifetime about our lack of communication. And in a flash, there was a touch of the grief as a child of
Right.
my belief he wasn't there. So there
Yes.
was something like I couldn't see that walking down the street I'd get in touch with that. There was something about actively
Yes.
speaking to my
Yes.
co-inquirers in the moment that brought me to that place, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so it's that little bit like, how do I meet that if I'm walking through the world on my own?
Well, I think I mean, oftentimes, I think it's natural that when we're functioning out in the world, our contact with the deeper layers can be, they can recede a bit. That's natural. So when you sit down to practice and you're consciously, feeling into the depths of your inner world, I think it's natural that these things become more obvious. So I think what you're describing is a perfectly normal thing. And, as we go on through the journey and as we sort of get more open and more practiced and more present, then, I guess I could say we will tend to notice these things, more immediately. We become more in touch with them. But I don't think there's anything surprising in what you're saying. It's not that there's anything wrong. I mean, yeah, you'll still find after, I still see with myself, with colleagues and friends, you sit down to inquire and, the next thing you starts like you're talking about something from your life and very quickly it ends up refracting through to some deeper layer of the inner world that you just hadn't seen immediately at the surface. And what you're pointing to there is another layer that we'll discuss in one of the sessions coming up, which has to do with those young places, right? The sort of formative conditioning and inner child and all of that. So there's a situation now with the grief with your brother, but that connected you to a much deeper, lifelong sort of grief that had a whole longer history. And yeah, I mean, that is what happens. So that's that another layer of the inner depths beginning to bubble into your awareness.
And just to clarify one part there, because and you have answered it really, but it's like, it isn't that I was saying there was anything wrong in the not accessing those depths. It's more my curiosity is more like, is there an invitation? Is there a way? You've sort of touched on
Oh,
it with the sensing,
uh-huh. Right.
it's more, how do I access that more on my day
Yes.
to day?
Sensing. Sensing and checking in. I mean, you said it when you go on your hike. You were describing going on the hike, and then you said, well, what do? I sense myself, I become more present. You said something about setting your intention, but it can be just taking the time to just go, okay, so how am I feeling right now? What am I in touch with right now as I'm driving down the road or walking on the mountain, or, that possibility of inquiry, of simply waking up a little more to what's present for you in the moment is always there. It's always there, any time of the day. Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to do this. Yeah, that's yes, yeah. Just that last bit you said. It's always there. It's
Always.
just okay. Just turning towards it. Yeah.
Exactly. That turn to just, oh, well, what's here? Like, what's really here for me?
Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah. Lovely. Thanks, Noel. So our next two sessions, Susan's put details in the chat, going to be on March 11 and April 8. You can sign up for the newsletter at the link, and then you'll get emailed all the details of it, and you'll also be able to see all the topics that we'll be covering through the course of the year. And yeah, I want to thank you for coming along. It has been a pleasure, as always, to spend time with you. And I love all the questions and things that are coming forward. And if you do find you have other questions or suggestions or curiosities, always please feel free to get in touch. And you can follow or subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and then you'll get notified when we post things there. Michael's been doing some lovely sort of little short clips that he's been uploading there, little short extracts from the talks. And of course, we post the whole session as well. So that's us for today. wishing you all the best and look forward to seeing you in March. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Dom.
Dom.
Thank you, Dom. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.